Hello everybody, you're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Randlesome Zone for a short story and some poetry. And we catch up with Twangling Jack Ford over in the Oak Shed for a weekly album review. As always, you can reach out to me here at the studio on dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. And I'm particularly keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with MP3s, local arts news, etc. Don't hesitate to get in touch. Let me know if you have any announcements you'd like me to read out as well. You can also find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights, or on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. So this week we are going to be chatting to Handicross runner David Randlesome about the upcoming Marlow 5. But before we do that, we're going to head over to the announcements for this week. So here is what's new. Okay, so from Squidface Girl we have, "Hi Dane, hope this email finds you fit and well. I'm 2 months into my tour of India and return to the UK at the end of May, heading north to Rishikesh to a wellness retreat on Thursday and remaining optimistic about improving my health and well-being. I completed my CD in December just before leaving, and an alarmingly big box full of them has now arrived at my home address. Alarming because I'm probably going to still have a half-full, half-empty box of my CDs under the staircase for a very long time. However, the feeling of accomplishment and pride at having achieved my goal of finishing it all in time and saying it, then actually doing it, is immense and immeasurable. Lack of technical knowledge and my constant struggle to navigate it regardlessly as best as I can, coupled with a fan base barely reaching triple figures and comprising mainly of my friends and family, does limit my reach somewhat for sure, and this is where I was rather hoping you might be able to support me sometime soon on your radio show. Please could you play the first song I'm releasing on all major platforms using DistroKid distribution and Bandcamp, with the handle of course of Squidface Girl. It is called Spirit, and between you and me, I wrote it the day after my dog Lily passed away. It's quite a moving song to me as it conjures up her image in my mind whenever I hear it. I hope that my song might also have a similar effect on others who are suffering a bereavement or struggle with loss. If it is also possible, please could you encourage listeners to contact me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube or SoundCloud, or just good old Messenger if they would like me to post them out a copy of my whole CD, which is aptly, but not originally I'm sure, named Table Coaster. I have assigned a price of £3.50 or whatever someone can afford, plus postage and packaging to my product. Table Coaster looks like a 7-track CD, but also includes another hidden track within, which is a particularly fun and unusual track. It is all written, played, performed and produced by me, aka Squidface Girl. It's not perfect, far from it, but time won't wait and it's good enough. Many thanks for taking time to consider my request to play the attached tune and for all of your support along the way on my ridiculously optimistic and important journey of self-discovery and development. I appreciate it all. Very best wishes, Suzanne Percy, Squidface Girl." Alright, those were this week's announcements, and we're going to head straight on over to the Rhylight Zone for the latest instalment of The Ranch by myself, Dane Cobain. Belina Borghi had always loved horses. Her love for dressage and gymkhana had started almost as soon as she came out of the womb. Her first ever teddy bear had been less of a bear and more of a horse, a brown stallion with white specks along its muzzle. It had been a gift from her grandfather, who owned a ranch on the outskirts of town, and it was twice the size of her when she first came into the world at a weight of 7 pounds 2 ounces. Belina had loved that horse to death. By her 6th birthday, when she first started riding, its stitching had come apart and its lining had fallen out. Knowing how much the thing meant to her, Grandpa Borghi had repaired it by hand in the little wooden shed at the bottom of his garden. He'd used hay to refill the teddy, which only served to make it smell even more like a horse. By the time that she turned into a teenager, Belina was an accomplished rider, with a number of trophies and medals scattered throughout her bedroom, which was full of posters and pictures of her equine friends. She was also a keen reader, and had been ever since her mother had read Black Beauty to her as a child, but she rarely watched movies or television. She preferred to inhabit a world of her own imagination. Even at that age, she spent most of her weekends at Grandpa Borghi's ranch. The old man had already retired from the business, but he still owned a controlling stake and had an occasional hand in running things. He was more than happy to spend his weekends with his granddaughter, teaching her how to care for the horses. She was already a strong rider, and there was nothing more that Grandpa Borghi could teach her about that. She also knew how to brush them and was never afraid to get her hands dirty by pitching in to shovel spread hay. During the summer, when school was out, she spent even more of her time at the ranch, helping out with whatever was needed. That often meant teaching the tourists to ride, even when they were decades older than she was. She didn't ask for a penny. All she wanted was an excuse to spend more time with the horses, something that her grandpa's former business partner, Alphonse Andrizi, was more than happy to provide her with. It was an arrangement that suited everyone. That was the latest instalment of The Ranch by myself, Dane Cobain, for this week's entry into the Rhylight Zone. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound, and this is Charlie Brind with his version of Freak on a Leash by Korn.
Something takes a part of me, something lost and never seen. Every time I start to believe something's raped and taken from me. Life's always gotta be messing with me. Can they chill and let me just be? Can I take away all this pain? I try every night in vain. Sometimes I cannot take this place. Sometimes it's my life I can't taste. Sometimes I cannot feel my face. You never see me fall from grace. Something takes a part of me. You and I were meant to be. A cheap trick for me to play. Something takes a part of me. Feeling like a freak on a leash. Feeling like I have no release. How many times have I felt disease? Nothing in my life is free. Sometimes I cannot take this place. Sometimes it's my life I can taste. Sometimes I cannot feel my face. You never see me fall from grace. Something takes a part of me. You and I were meant to be. A cheap trick for me to play. Something takes a part of me. Ooh, na, na, ooh, na, 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 ooh, na, na, ooh, na, 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 ooh, na, na, ooh, na, 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 ooh, na, na, ooh, go. Something takes a part of me. You and I were meant to be. A cheap trick for me to play. Something takes a part of me. A part of me. A part of me. Part of me, part of me, a part of me, a part of me, a part of me, part of me. walking my way down that dirty old road. And I'm walking my way down, and I lost my soul. I sold my soul for the big bright lights, and I signed my name, Lord, and it didn't feel so right. Nobody told me I would pay the price. Oh, yeah. And I sold my soul for fool's paradise. I'm walking my way down that dirty old road. I'm walking my way down, and I don't wanna go. I'm walking my way down for something I owe, and I'm walking my way down, and I don't wanna go. There's nothing to show. Listen up, he said this. Now time to pay. Ooh, always calling my name. There's no way out of this. There's trouble, you say. Oh, I played my cards, and there's no one to play. The devil that won my soul in his con game. There's no one to blame. Walking my way down that dirty old road. I'm walking my way down, and I don't wanna go. I'm walking my way down for something I owe. I'm walking my way down, and I don't wanna go. No, that deserted road. I'm walking my way down that dirty old road. You know it's time to go. I don't wanna go. No, 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 and I'm walking. And you know what? You gotta pay the price.
That was Walking by Glenda Benavides, and before that we had Charlie Brind with his version of Freak on a Leash by Korn. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound, and it's time for us to be joined now in conversation by this week's guest, who is runner David Randlesome. Okay, well the first question isn't related to running, or well it might be, it depends upon your answer, but it's my traditional opening question, which is just, what was the last book that you read and what did you think of it?
Well, it's a very good question, and I think conveniently It's actually a running related book.
Very nice.
So it's Chrissy Wellington's book, Life Without Limits, and it's all
Okay.
about her journey through triathlon
Hmm.
and kind of the training that goes along with it, and moving to other countries and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's really interesting and yeah, quite apt for what we're talking about now.
Yeah, for sure. I'll have to add that to my list. I've read a few running books. I think next up, I know Paul Sinton Hewitt, the guy who founded Parkrun. He's got his
Yeah,
book is either just out or just coming out. So that's probably going to be my next one.
yeah.
And you mentioned there that that was about triathlons. Do you compete in triathlons? Are you just a runner? Do you cycle or swim as well?
Yeah, I'm not a triathlon enthusiast. I'm purely a runner. My wife actually got this book for me from a corporate event that she went to, and it's actually signed by Chrissy, and it
Amazing.
says to Dave, from one ultra addict to another. So yeah, I highly recommend that book.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. Well, obviously, I want to chat to you today about running. We'll chat about the Marlow 5 in a little bit and your
Yeah.
involvement with Handy Cross Runners. But could you just let us know how you got your start in running, how long you've been a runner, and kind of what got you into it?
Yeah, so we moved to Wickham in 2017,
Hmm.
and I moved from Essex, so new to the area. We didn't know anybody, didn't have any friends in the area, and my wife, my partner at the time, she saw a flyer for the Handy Cross Runners Begin Running course,
Hmm.
and she said, "Oh, this will be good because we were both fairly unsporty at the time, so it was a case of let's go along and give it a go. And we did the course, a 10-week course, and we by pure chance we found out that the area that we'd moved to was a real hotbed of activity for Handycross, and there's lots of people in our local area that are also members of Handycross runners. So we formed a really good friendship group with
Hmm.
those people, and we from that day we're still very good friends with them now, and hopefully will be for a long time and living so close to where Handycross operates, and there's lots of local trail runs we can do, which is great. So yeah, we by pure fluke we've ended up in a really good location. So we did the begin running course, and then from there we progressed on through the weekly runs that
Hmm.
Handycross do into the 10K group, and then um, through COVID got a bit more into running. I did my first half marathon during lockdown on the trails around West Wickham,
Hmm.
and then I sort of carried on adding to the distance, and then I built up to marathon distance. I've done a few marathons. I was lucky enough to get the London Marathon place through Handy Cross as well,
Hmm.
so I did that a few years ago, and then I've then progressed on to ultra marathons, so 50K, 34 miles, I think, is my longest run to date. And yeah, I fell into the lifestyle of running, and I've built lots of friendship groups around running, and it's given me a lot.
Awesome. Cool. And you kind of mentioned there trail running. So can you tell people what the difference is between trail running and road running, and which one do you prefer?
Yes, so road running is what it says. You put your shoes on, you go outside, and you run around the streets. Trail running is slightly different, where you're running in woodland, in fields, trails. As it suggests, could be along the side of rivers, or through woods, and out in the great outdoors. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's my favorite. I've got two dogs, so I'm out running all the time with the dogs. Yeah, we can go out for hours at a time, and we're so fortunate around Wickham that we've got such lovely trails. In any direction, you're never far away from finding somewhere really lovely to go and run.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, I find that. I mean, especially, West Wickham's really nice. You've got Hewendon's really nice. And even if you go over towards Beaconsfield in that direction, there's some nice
Yeah.
areas as well. And especially with, as you say, with you going up to that, I suppose when you did that first half marathon of yours, you almost have to do trail running by that point because you're kind of running out of town to run in.
Yeah, it was actually the Hampshire Hoppit, the virtual version, because obviously during lockdown there were no races took place. But you did the virtual one. You submitted your Strava that showed the
Hmm.
distance that you'd done. Then you got the medal.
Yeah.
And there was a big group of us that went out and did that half marathon. Um, and then yeah, we got the medal off the back of it.
Lovely. Awesome. And talking of races, what can you tell us about the Marlow 5?
So the Marlow 5 is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a flat road race, and it can be fast, it can be slow, it can be whatever you want it to be. So we kind of market it as a fast, flat road race, but again, very inclusive. We'll have people there that will run it. We'll have people there that will walk most of it. So yeah, it's open to everybody. But it's a really good opportunity if you're into road running and you want to get a good time at 5 mile distance. It's a really good race to have a go at. It starts in Higginson Park in Marlow, and it runs on closed streets around Marlow. Really well supported. Lots of great marshals. There's water stations out there. Well, there's one water station out there on the course, and a really good quality bespoke medal that we've had made. We have a new medal designed every year, and this year is a very, very important year for us because it's our 40th year of running the event. So we've got a really good bespoke 40th anniversary medal. So it's going to be a really good day. It normally takes place it always takes place in May, and we normally get really good weather for it. So we're fingers crossed again for this year. It takes place on the 11th of May, and yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Cool. And what's the entry fee, and where can people sign up for it?
So the entry fee in advance of the day is £23. It may be slightly higher on the day, and you can sign up to that at marlow5.co.uk.
Awesome. And what does the Marlow 5 have to offer that other races don't? Because obviously there are a lot of races out there. I suppose one of them is that 5 milers, while reasonably common, aren't necessarily the most common distance. And you mentioned it being flat and whatnot, but what would you say are its USPs?
Yeah, correct. I think for those people that are maybe at 5K distance and want to make that step into a slightly further distance, it's a great opportunity. For us, I think our USP is the support that you're going to get on the day. There's going to be lots of marshals everywhere you go. There'll be marshals. We've got water stations. The medal is obviously unique to us. We design it every year. The support from the local community. Lots of people out on the streets of Marlow. Closed roads. How often do you get closed roads in Marlow? Not that often. We go through. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of organisation for us to be able to hold this event. So I would really recommend people take advantage of being able to run around the streets of Marlow with no traffic.
Yeah, awesome. And I wanted to ask as well, like, have you been involved in putting on any other events? And also, what's your specific role with Marlow 5? Like, how do you put that event on?
Yeah, so my role is really the publicity officer. So I do the social media side of things. I liaise with the charities because the race, ultimately we're there to create to make some money for charities. So we've got 2 local charities that we're supporting this year: Dementia Action Marlow being the first one, and Thames Valley Air Ambulance being the second one. And we were really, really pleased last year. We were able to donate just over £13,000 to the Hearing Dogs for Deaf people down in Saunderton. So we're really focused on trying to get as many people as we can out on the day so that we can give those 2 fantastic charities as much money as we can. Handy Cross don't make any profit out the day. All the proceeds go towards those 2 charities. That's really what we're focused on. So my job, I guess, is to try and publicise the race as much as I can. So using social media and kindly provided us this platform, which is great. So that's what I do. On the day, I'll be out in the streets marshalling out along with all the other Handy Cross members and cheering people on.
Yep, I'll be there too. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. I'm in conversation with David Randlesome, and this is myself, Dane Cobain, with Running. 1, 2, 3, 4. I run because I like the buzz it gives to me. I run because I'm haunted by my memories.
I run because I'm not the man I used to be. I run because like nothing else it sets me free. I run because the lies I told are catching up. I run because it's cold outside and I'm warming up. I run because it stops my lungs from giving up. I run because and that's enough. I gotta put one foot in front of the other. I'm dying inside and I'll never recover. There's something in my shoe and there's something in my eye. There's something in my brain trying to keep me alive. And I'm running, 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 running away from that which brings me down. And I'm running, 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 running away from that which brings me round. I run because I like to cause myself pain. I run because like others I am insane. I run because my spirit is a freight train. I run because it feels good in the rain.
That was Running by myself, Dane Cobain. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound, and it's time for us to be rejoined in conversation now by this week's guest, who is David Randlesome. In the AGM, it was mentioned that we're past the break-even point for the event now as well. So essentially, anybody who's listening, if they sign up to the event, essentially all of their entry fee, all of it is essentially going to charity, right?
Absolutely, that's it now. You know, we're at the stage now where we're raising money for charity. We were very fortunate that we had a really good early bird discount that we
Hmm.
offered from throughout December and January. So we got a lot of people up front. So
Hmm.
now we're in a good position where now we're making money that we can then give away.
Yeah, brilliant. And how many runners are you expecting, and what's like the total cap, I guess?
The we Last year we had around 1,000, and we were expecting a similar number this year. Hopefully a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, if everybody that ran it last year comes back and we find some new runners, then yeah, we should be. We really, I think we want to cap it at around 1,200.
Hmm.
But if we could get near that number, that'd be fantastic. And we'd raise more money this year than we did last year.
Yeah, awesome. And you mentioned obviously handy cross runners, they'll be members of that volunteering as marshals. Are there opportunities for other people to volunteer as well? And if so, like how could they do that if they wanted to get
Yeah,
involved?
absolutely. I mean, get in touch with us via the Facebook page. We're always looking for people, or just turn up, come to the streets, come and support the runners.
Yeah.
There's lots of opportunity. There's fantastic places to eat and drink in
Hmm.
on the high street in Marlow. Higginson Park will obviously be open as well. So the more the merrier. Come along. We're very lucky that we have the support of the Downley Scout Group,
Hmm.
who last year helped us fill in 1,200 water bottles
Wow.
in Higginson Park in the morning, and then they went out and marshalled the course with us, and they were in the park handing medals out to the people that finished the race. So hopefully they'll be with us again this year. But yeah, the more the merrier. Come and let's make a fantastic atmosphere for those runners.
Cool. And how many of the event have you attended now? As you say, it's been going for 40 years. How many have you been involved in? And do any of them in particular sort of stand out in your memory as being either great or maybe not so great?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to run the event the first year that we moved to Wickham because we'd just come out of the Begin Running group, and
Hmm.
so we did it, and to actually experiencing the event day was great, and the support around the town was fantastic, and I've got the medal, and then ever since then, last few years I've been on the streets marshalling. We're always in the park early, helping to set up and make sure that we try and create a really good race village within
Hmm.
Higginson Park. So we have food vans. There's a coffee van. We have people from local sports shops there, and we have massage people and physios and all that kind of stuff. And we really want to try and create that race village feel for the morning of the race.
Hmm. Awesome. And we've mentioned Wickham, we've mentioned Marlow, but where are some of the other places that are your favorite places to run? Where stands out to you?
Yeah, so my favourite trails really are out towards West Wickham, Saunderton, Bradnam,
Hmm.
out, and then I go a little bit further afield, down to kind of Maidenhead and out along the river.
Hmm.
There really are. It's endless. You could, you know, you can pick a point on the map, and there's loads of different places to run to.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And your story I think, is quite relatable to a lot of people who maybe have been thinking about getting into running, have been putting it off, or haven't known where to start. So I wondered, what would your advice be to someone who was thinking about getting into running, but is maybe
Mm.
hesitant to sort of take that first step?
Absolutely find a local running club. Handy cross run is really inclusive, lots of different levels and abilities, and people that want to run once a week or 3 or 4 times a week. People just want to do park run on a Saturday morning, or they want to go a
Hmm.
little bit further. Lots of opportunities. I think surround yourself with people that want to do a similar thing would be my advice.
Yeah.
I was very lucky to fall into a group of people that are running the distances that I wanted to run, and
Mm.
I learned so much coming through begin running and then into handy cross, more around how to eat well and recover well and train well, and
Yeah.
then that all then leads into the end result, which is you want to go and have a lovely run.
Yeah.
If you don't do those things, when I first did it, I was always thinking, why are these people so much faster than me?
Yeah.
Why are they not struggling like I'm struggling? And the answer is because they eat well, they train well, they
Yeah.
sleep well, they recover well, and you start to bring that kind of thing into your own running, and it ultimately it does pay off because
Hmm.
you start doing the right things and you get the results out the back of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a phrase in there. It's garbage in, garbage out, and I think that
Yeah,
probably is never truer than when it comes to running.
yeah, that's it. And with running, much like it, no, most sports, you get out what you put in.
Yeah.
If you train well, and you dedicate yourself to it, and you carry on when it even, we all have tough runs,
Hmm.
um, you know, but it does. No matter how far you run, it all, it never. You get better. It doesn't necessarily get easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you look after yourself and you train well, you get the results at the end of it.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to ask you about that because I talked about this when I talked to Bob Yates
Mm.
about how do you stay motivated to keep going when you're exhausted and your body's just screaming at you to stop and have a long lie down. What makes you keep putting, one foot in front of another?
I think I always tell myself when it gets really tough, I always tell myself this is nobody else's fault but mine
Yeah.
that I'm in this position,
Yeah.
and I've got no option but just to keep going.
Yeah.
And once you get to the point where you've had that conversation with yourself, you've got no choice. You
Yeah.
can't go backwards. You can only go forwards,
Yeah.
and you carry on. For me, what keeps me running is my friendship group. And
Yeah.
it may sound quite cheesy, but when you don't want to go running, like for example last night,
Yeah.
the session up at the club, it was interval training, and
Hmm.
I'm thinking, I start getting to the point where your mind starts trying to talk you out of it, and you come up with all the excuses as to why you're not going to go,
Yeah.
and then you need someone to step in and say, "No, we
Yeah.
are going. I'll pick you up at this time, or I'll
Yeah.
see you there." And then you get over that hurdle. You get there. You have a good session, and then you feel great at the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's surrounding yourself with good people, and reminding yourself that it's nobody else's fault but yours.
Yeah, love it. Cool. And just on in terms of your own running, what are some of the events that you've got your eyes on that you've got coming up, either that you've booked or that you're thinking about booking?
So this year, actually, for the first time in 5 or 6 years, I haven't got any major races on the calendar.
Hmm.
I'm doing a local race, which is the Beaconsfield 5, which similar to
Yeah.
our race is a fantastic local event. So, again, sign up for our race and also sign up for that one.
Hmm.
After that, we've spoken about, we've got a mutual friend in Bob Yates who's doing a
Hmm.
fantastic thing this year. I think once he's done that, he's the guy that forces me into these
Yeah.
events. So I think once he's got his challenge out the way, we'll then be looking at booking up some more events later in the year.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. And we've kind of answered this really. So I always end on what's next for you and where can people follow you to find out more. I suppose mainly we'll talk about where can people find out more about the Marlow 5? Where can they follow it on social media? And also you mentioned this year's the 40th anniversary.
Mhm.
Have you thought at all about the 41st anniversary yet, or are you still just we'll get this one out of the way and then worry about the next one?
Yeah, I think we'll deal with this one first, and then
Yeah.
we'll worry about next year. Next year, our focus really is on getting as many people into Higginson Park on the 11th of May to run this race with us.
Hmm.
You can find out the website's marlow5.co.uk. We're on Facebook. Drop us a message. Send us an email. Any queries, we'll do our best to answer them. But yeah, keep an eye on the socials, and get onto marlow5.co.uk and get signed up.
Big thank you to David Randlesome for joining me. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is Jazz DeLorean with Rain on a Sunday.
Got my head down on the tracks, eyelids full of rain. When the sun keeps shining for someone else, I fight this hurricane. Don't keep telling me to smile, I won't waste a smile again. Do you have the facts to make a lie, or the courage to remain? There's nothing like rain on a Sunday. To get you in a Monday sort of mood. Alone and in the dark, you got me on my knees. Take me to a star way out in space. One-way ticket, please. There's nothing like rain on a Sunday. To get you in a Monday sort of mood. No, there's nothing like rain on a Sunday. Get you in a Monday sort of mood.
That was Broken Reality by Umar Ara, and before that we had Rain on a Sunday by Jazz DeLorean. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to head over to the Ilk Shed now to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review.
Joe Meek, the alchemist of pop. We were excited by the space race in the early 60s. No one was telling us it was all just a mock-up in a film studio. The communication satellite Telstar was big news. Its image was iconic. I flew a Telstar kite up to the highest heights. It was a time of Fireball XL5 and Space Patrol. There is a whooshing sound we associate with space travel. A sound that Hawkwind made a career out of. That sound of echoey bleeps. Joe Meek was the man that captured the excitement of the space race with a simple tune played on a primitive electronic keyboard. A sound that in those days sounded futuristic. It started with a whoosh and it was a worldwide smash, and it was recorded in a home studio above a shop on Holloway Road, and it still makes me smile. Joe Meek started out as a studio employee, where he developed his use of double tracking and sound compression. His first success was Bad Penny Blues by Humphrey Lyttelton. He fell out with the owner of the studio he worked for, so he set up his own studio, where people played in the living room, on the stairs, and even in the bathroom and toilet. Joe Meek could also do spooky and had a big hit with Johnny Remember Me by John Layton, a Ghost Riders in the Sky type number with a ghostly female chorus. There are a number of songs on this compilation that sound like Bargain Basement Buddy Holly, and there are instrumentals that attempt to copy both The Shadows and Dwayne Eddy. Some are ridiculous treatments of tunes like Greensleeves and The Can-Can. There are songs that exploited the deaths of both Buddy Holly and Eddie Cochran that were quite recent at the time. Joe Meek worked relentlessly, partly because during his lifetime and because he was so bad at business, he never made any money from Telstar. I was particularly interested in the Screaming Lord Such number on this CD. Hands of Jack the Ripper was a pioneer of shock rock long before Alice Cooper. Such emerged from a coffin at the start of his set, and he wore a black cape and a top hat. The poor quality of his songs and his singing limited his musical success, but he became one of the best known figures in British politics when he would stand for Parliament in every election and by-election. He even went on to form his own raving monster loony party. Joe Meek used musicians who went on to be stars, like Ritchie Blackmore of Deep Purple and Chaz Hodges of Chaz and Dave. The energetic and echoey sound of Meek's home studio compared well against the more staid output from real studios, and his tracks often stood out because of his use of effects and tricks like strumming the piano strings. On this compilation CD there are 60s classics that still turn up on specialist radio stations and compilation albums. Songs like What Do You Want to Make Those Eyes at Me For by Emil Ford and the Checkmates, Angela Jones by Michael Cox, and Have I the Right by the Honeycombs. There is an excellent film about the strange life and death of Joe Meek. It is called Telstar. Joe Meek, the alchemist of pop.
Big thank you to Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review. Thank you to David Randlesome for being this week's guest. Thank you to everyone whose music I've shared, announcements I've shared, all of that stuff. As always, if you want to reach out to me here at the studio, you can drop me a line on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. And I'm particularly keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with MP3s to share, people with local arts news. Don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeat on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. So I'm going to leave you with one last tune, and this is the incredible Tom Bradley Jr. with Colourblind. I'll catch you next week.
I sat up and